Hello, I'm Gaither Stevens, CEO of Gaither Dynamic, and today I will be walking you through the Community Snapshot Dashboard demonstration. To find the demo of the Community Snapshot Dashboard, you can go to gaitherdyne.com, as you see up here in the address bar. And if you click on Products and then Community Snapshot Dashboard, it will take you to a high-level overview about the dashboard where it talks about how the dashboard is based on the hashed HUD CSV export out of HMIS, and it generally matches APR, or Annual Performance Report logic, out of HMIS. As we scroll down, we see the dashboard itself is loading. Now, remember, there could be a lot of data in the dashboard. It does take a second to load because it's not just a static dashboard. This is a fully dynamic, interactive dashboard. And the first thing I'm going to do, rather than starting on the main page, I'm going to go ahead and cover the icons up here in the top right-hand corner. The main icon is the main dashboard. As you can see, it's lit blue because that's where we're at right now. But we're going to move on to the second icon, and that's the information icon. The information icon talks about the dashboard and how it works, and it walks you through each step of what the dashboard means. One important thing I'd like to point out is for security purposes, so we can't identify people too easily or at all within a project, we make sure that if there's less than 10 people, then it'll just say less than 10 people, because we don't want someone to go to the dashboard, filter down to a project, age, race, gender, or sex, and everything, and then find out one particular person and whether they were in a project or not. So less than 10 people, it'll just give a display that says less than 10 people displayed. So check this information page out. It's got some really good information on the dashboard. And then what I like to do is go to the settings page, because that's where the real power comes into play with this dashboard. The first thing we have are these report date filters. So we can actually change the report date. So it's almost like running multiple reports in HMIS, but outside of HMIS and very quickly. So I can change this to May, and you can actually see the filter up here change to let us know that we're now looking at a different date range than we were before. We can look at project types. So maybe we only want to look at, street outreach. We could deselect these and select street outreach, or we could select maybe homeless prevention and transitional housing, like all different kinds of different selections you can do here and interactions. Project name. You can click on the project name. I would recommend, if you want to do like an agency dashboard, you could deselect all and maybe just select the projects from one particular agency, and then all of a sudden this becomes an agency dashboard. Or you could select just one project and it becomes a project dashboard. So it's very flexible. We also have population filters. So as I click on this, you see we have age filters, client type, so chronic, homeless, housed, veteran, household filters, race filters, and then sex filters. And realize that since you can do more than one filter, they can conflict. So if you chose only adults and only children, then the dashboard's not going to show anything, just to let you know. So if you don't see data on the dashboard, go back, check the filters, refresh the dashboard, maybe just to set it back up at the beginning. But these can conflict, so be careful about that when using some of these filters. Also, when you're choosing a filter, it will let you know what filters are active when you go back to the main page. That just makes it easy, so you don't have to remember which filters were selected or not. I'm not going to select any filters. I'm going to look at all the data right now, but I wanted to make sure to point you to that direction so you can see where they are. It's very powerful, and it's really the mechanics and the underlying engine of this dashboard. I'm going to go back to the main dashboard. I can do that by clicking on the main dashboard icon, or I can save filters and return to the main dashboard. I'm just going to click on the icon, and this will, even though I didn't change much in the background, it's still going to go ahead and crunch and make sure and look at the filters and make sure that I chose everything correctly, or at least it's going to try to honor those and then populate the data on the front page. It could take up to 60 seconds, but that's because we're doing, interactive calculations on the fly on this data. So now that we're at the main dashboard, we have the population filter displays I pointed out. We have a title, we have the date range, and we have our three icons. Now below that, we have visualizations. The first panel are total households, and then households across the top. Most of the visualizations are broken up into two parts. The Top part is the total over time, over the entire time, rather. So January through December right now, but if we change those dates, it would just be whatever date ranges up there. It's for this is that total for that whole amount. But the problem is maybe I want to know what was going on in May. And I could go back to the filters and I could change this just to show May, or I could just go down here and I can hover and I can find May on my graph. And now I can see the total households just for May. And so this is very powerful because I'm not going back and forth. I can see things like dips in the data or spikes in the data. And then I can hover over them and very quickly see the numbers without having to go back and forth between either an APR or the filters here. So we have households. Now we have these are active clients that were active during that date range. And we also, I have a lot of tooltips and layered data on this dashboard. We can see that, first of all, there's the total people, but then there's also a change from the previous month. So that's going from November up to December, what that percent change is. Our leavers, our stayers, these are people that exited the system, people that were still in the system at the end of the report range. These are our average days in the homeless system and median days. And as you can see with these tooltips, they also have things like the pre-rounding total, well, I guess we're looking at average days on the front, and then you can hover for the median days. So I try to give lots of different ways to look at the information. So average on the front page, median down here on the bottom there. Again, you can hover over the graph to find out numbers per month, which is really interesting. And then we move on to homeless, and these are people that were experiencing homelessness and still in the projects at the end of the reporting period. And then here we are, the homeless population over time per month. The next KPI covers people that were housed. So they exited to permanent housing, and then what that looked like per month. And the next KPI is very important. This is the inflow versus outflow by month. So these are people that are entering the system and the people that are exiting the system. This is great for seeing things like if you hover over the month, you can see are we helping more people than are coming into the system, and that's how you get your stock down, and that's how you push the needle forward is by having less people enter your system and more people entering the system. Or sorry, yeah, less people entering and more people exiting is what you want to see with this graph right here. And then we have chronically homeless, we have children, veterans, vulnerable populations that we try to monitor, and what's going on. And we can see that chronically homeless individuals or people, it's actually going down. A little spike up here, but a nice little dip over time. And it's good to see these things without having to run 12 different reports, one for each month. We move down to the sex category. Now, we've only been collecting the sex data type since October 1st, 2025. That's why you see a lot less people in this. And if you hover over this donut chart in the middle, you'll see that out of 5,658 clients, 989 includes sex data so far. As time goes on, that number will go up and we'll keep collecting more of that data on existing clients. All new clients should have that data element collected. If you hover over, you get a lot of information. You can hover over the bars. You can hover over the donut chart on the outside, the donut chart on the inside. You can go down to the age, and it's the same thing. There are percentages. There are, anytime you hover over the visualizations, usually there's layered data there. There's information about the KPI and the data itself. So always good to kind of check out some of these hover tooltips. Again, we can hover over the donut chart, or we can hover over, the middle part or the outer part. Race is something I'd like to point out. It's possible to have more totals than total people, mainly because people can identify with multiple races. So if you have someone that's, in the white category and Black, African American, African, then that means that those are two different categories counted, and so they'll show up in this bar here and this bar here. And that means these counts can be higher than the total number of people because one person can have more than one race. Moving on, we have the system flow by last exit. With this, I recommend starting at the far right side, and these are the people that have exited the system by the end of the report date. Did they exit to homeless, other, I think institutionals in here, kind of hiding, small, permanent. And then, so this is the exit destination. This is the project type they exited from. And then this on the far left is the entry situation that they entered into. So we kind of get a little snapshot of their path through the system. And generally, what you want to see is a little bit of green on the left and a lot more green on the right. And that lets you know things are working. And if you hover on these, you get your percentages, and you can see, honestly, it's really cool. You can see these paths. You see people going temporary, going into services only, and then you see a lot of these services only going back into homelessness. And that makes a lot of sense because you have maybe showers or backpacks or meals or something that are being tracked. And so the services only, they're not necessarily going to house them that day. They might just get a meal and boom, boom, boom. And if you wanted to see what this looked like without this, a lot of these temporary or SSO, you could just eliminate this project type from the using the filters and then see what this data looks like without it. So it's really cool what you can do on the back end. Lastly, we have data quality over time. The larger the graph, the more data quality errors there are. You can hover to find out what's really driving that. And the information here is important because you might have something that looks like a lot of errors, maybe like the Social Security numbers, for example. However, this is based on the flags. So if someone has, like, it's not looking at whether there's like a J or a letter in a number field. It's looking at that the flag for Social Security or the flag for something. So there's a separate data field in HMIS that people can check, and this looks for, like, for example, it might say partial Social Security number is checked. And unfortunately, that can look like an error or be counted as an error in HMIS, but you have to know that for certain project types, that's not. Like, for example, street outreach, you do not necessarily have to collect all the digits of the Social Security number, at least for some street outreach. So just understand that these data quality errors should be taken in context, but there are very important ones like head of household, destination. Those are some things that should be checked out, and disability, obviously, but just something to consider. Again, like date of birth, it's not looking at whether it's the date is in the future, which might be a data quality error that could be checked. But what we're looking at is the flag. Does it say partial date of birth? Then that will show up as an error. And that's really everything for this particular dashboard. This is the Community Snapshot Dashboard. You can view the demo on gaither.com/CSD. Again, my name is Gaither Stevens. If you would like to contact me, my email address is gaither.stevens, and that's Stevens with a PH, at gaitherdyne.com. You can also find it just by going to the gaitherdyne.com website and then just click on email us, and that will come right to me. Thank you for viewing this video, and I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.